The first thing I want to know, who thought Frank Castle should have a freaking War Machine armor suit? He's probably the last person that needed it. But it looks really cool. So I'm here today on the Vibranium channel to unbox this figure from Hot Toys. If you're not familiar with this version of Frank Castle in this suit of armor, that's okay. I'll go through what happened back in 2017 in this comic book series where he got this armor, killed a lot of bad guys, not a surprise, and fought the Avengers when they came to take it back. After that, we'll go through the figure and all the accessories, do some poses, some comparisons, then do a final review of what I think of the figure overall. So stay tuned and we'll get started.
So for those of you interested in a little bit of backstory of the Punisher and how he came into possession of the War Machine armor, I'll give a quick overview of the story arc. Now it will contain some spoilers, so if you intend to read it for yourself, go ahead and skip a couple minutes forward into the video, right to the unboxing portion. It actually is a pretty good story overall, and I think it's worth checking out for those of you that are fans of Punisher or Marvel Comics. So back in 2017, starting with Punisher Volume 2, Issue 218, or if you pick up the Punisher War Machine volume, Nick Fury recruits Frank Castle for an operation in an Eastern European country run by a ruthless military dictator. Part of this dictator's forces included rogue SHIELD agents using Stark weapons and suits of armor. So to help Frank with the mission, he gives him the whereabouts of War Machine armor to help even the odds. The armor is locked down in a high-security Air Force base. Now you might be asking, where's Rhodey during all of this? Well, unfortunately, Thanos killed him during a battle, with a punch straight to the chest. This event partially kicks off the start of the Civil War II storyline, actually. So back to the Punisher. After finding out where the War Machine armor is, Frank goes to the location and steals it actually pretty easily. He gets the hang of the suit enough and heads out to take care of the dictator and his men. While trying to get the dictator to show himself, kind of come out of his bunker, he starts taking out soldiers left and right, using some absolutely brutal, although innovative, ways of doing it. Punches one dude's head clean off his shoulders, flies another one high up in there and straight drops him to the ground. Definitely stuff you could see the Punisher doing if he had a suit like this. I won't go into the full details, but eventually Frank does what he needs to do. After this, there's some secret Empire storyline stuff that happens. I'm not going to go into, but that's also super interesting. That has to do with the evil Captain America and all that stuff. But eventually, Frank goes back to New York to use the suit in his fight against crime and hunting down the remnants of Hydra that are left after the Secret Empire storyline. Then when the body count gets too high, the Avengers have to intervene, knowing Frank is too dangerous to have the suit and that eventually there's going to be a lot of collateral damage. So they track him down and ask him to surrender and give up the suit. But Frank, being Frank, severely outnumbered and against some of the most powerful heroes in the world, he pretty much says, "Nah, you fools come and take it instead." He proceeds to fight all of them in a pretty cool fight scene. Eventually, though, he has to kind of run off when he ends up having to fight Captain Marvel and Luke Cage and the Thing and a bunch of other Avengers kind of at the same time. So he escapes from them, but eventually gets into a fight with Tony Stark when Tony Stark kind of thinks he needs to take care of it. However, in the end, it ends a little bit different than you'd think. During this time in the comics, Tony was actually able to resurrect Rhodey from the dead. Man, speaking of that, man, does anyone ever actually stay dead in the comics? I feel like they're dead for like 6 months and take a vacation and they come back. Anyways, Rhodes decides to try a different tactic since all of this fighting isn't exactly doing anyone any favors at the time. So he decides to try to talk to Frank by reasoning with him and talking to him as a fellow soldier. He explains what the armor means to people as a symbol of a hero and being a hero, and this isn't the way that armor should be used. Hearing this and having so much respect for Rhodes, Frank steps out of the armor and gives himself up, which honestly was a surprising way to end the story, at least to me, for him to give up the armor in that way. So that's kind of a quick overview of him and the suit in the comics. Sometime after these events in the comics, the Marvel Future Fight mobile game added this version of the Punisher to it as a playable character, which Hot Toys is basing their figure off of its likeness, including the head sculpt. So now let's go ahead and get into the unboxing portion of the video and check this bad boy out.
Alright, so here's the inner packaging of the figure. Go ahead and take the cover box off. As you can see, it's Punisher War Machine armor embedded in it. This is similar to the Endgame Iron Man box with the lid and stuff and the black styrofoam. It has a really cool embedded Punisher logo on the side. I really like when they do stuff like this. Just extra little stuff like this is really cool to see. They spend the time to do this on the figures or packaging and stuff. But obviously the main event, let's open this up and check out Frank in his suit here. Yeah, that's pretty damn sick. Look at that. Huge guns on the sides. Cool paint on his mask and his chest. Little, I'm guessing these are probably criminals he's taken out, like a count. Down here in his legs too. Next your head sculpt. Yeah, this thing looks really rad. Let's go ahead and take it out and go through all the different pieces, and then I'll probably compare it to the endgame diecast Iron Man, just to show you what like the bulky suit looks like versus the nano suit. And here's the figure with all the accessories. It is the Punisher, so it has a lot of guns. Not a surprise, but there are really cool guns. It has a Gatling gun, chain gun for one shoulder, with the belt for all the bullets. Then it also has a rail gun for the other shoulder, because you know you need two giant cannons on one on each shoulder. So this goes on one shoulder. And both of those have explosive firing effects that go on those guns. So we'll put those on there when we attach everything. And then besides those, obviously the figure has two cannons on his hands already. If that's not enough, then we have additional cannons you can add underneath his arms. So he has tons of firepower. And then these are actually magnetic, and they are missiles that go into his shoulders. So I'll show you where these go real quick. So obviously these flaps here open, and then the missiles would sit inside of those shoulders. Probably the wrong side. One of these go in there. Yeah, so there's one for each side. And you can either use them or not, and then these flaps do close. And then since I have the figure up here, we'll just kind of go through some of the articulation. The shoulder pieces do move up and down, so you can move his arms a fair amount, forward and backward and up, bending at the elbow. So yeah, there's good articulation for his arms and shoulders. Head, obviously, got a full pivot on there. Not a ton of up and down, but he's in a suit, so it only goes so far. And then legs, ratcheting knees, foot pivot a little bit, back's open, so he has a little bit of motion with his foot. And then the legs, they go a little bit out, and then these pieces open up a little bit, so you can go even further out. And there's a good amount forward and back too. So overall, it has pretty good articulation for a diecast heavy figure like this. Other than that, light up options, you got his eyes here and both hands have the repulsor lights. And then the one downside of this figure is it does have a chest light. Since this is based off the War Machine figure, so under his chest plate he does have a light, and it's like the purple like the War Machine. But I would have really liked to have seen Hot Toys make this red and make the eyes on this a little more see-through, so it showed through and kind of matches his face. I think that would have been a really cool effect. I would have put it over the top, made it an even better figure. I think it's still a cool figure, and maybe somebody will figure out some custom thing to do with this, but yeah, that's kind of a missed opportunity right there. But yeah, the rest of the figure is really cool. Similar, like I said, to the War Machine, but just touches for Punisher and a ton of guns, which is really cool. Head sculpt. I'll post a picture of what the character looks like in the feature fight game, but I mean, this is pretty much 100% what he looks like. So yeah, I think it's a really cool head sculpt. I know some people might switch it for the Netflix Punisher, or Thomas Jane maybe if they want to go back further, or Dolph Lundgren if you even want to go further back. Yeah, I think this is a cool head sculpt. And then you have the stand, which is fine. It's like a typical Hot Toys stand that comes with it. And then the posing pole. So yeah, as far as hands go, I just have the repulsor hands on him now, but he does have punching fists. If you want to have one like closed up, then these are the other repulsor hands. All the these ones don't really move. They're bendable in this hand. This is the one where he's kind of holding it like this. They move a little bit, but they're not articulated. And then the other version, which is the other hand where it goes into the back, this one has the full articulated fingers you can do. So they do give you two sets of hands, which is cool, not just one. And then these hands are fists, but they have more guns inside of them. There's not any effects for these, but I mean, this guy has so many guns. You basically have top of the hand, under the hand, and now front of the hand. So he's not having a shortage of guns in this suit. So it's really cool though that they give you additional hands with guns too. So yeah, let me go ahead and put some different stuff on him, and we'll put him on the turntable and show you guys what it looks like with all the different stuff. Well, somebody is ready for war. Here's the figure with the weapon effects and as many guns as I could put on him. So the railgun, the minigun, arm cannons, hand cannons, missiles. Dude is a straight up one-man army. The combination of the bulky suit with all the weapons plus the Punisher skull paint scheme and the helmet lit up in the eye section with the red LEDs, the thing is so awesome. It definitely will look really cool on a shelf in this battle pose. Now here I went for more of a stationary, kind of like a salute style pose for him, showing off the head sculpt, but still kept the helmet included since it's such a cool looking piece even when it's not on the figure. Speaking of the head sculpt, the more I looked at it, the more I actually liked it. It definitely looks like someone you wouldn't want to mess with, which is how the Punisher should look anyway. I also took off all the weapon effects, put the railgun behind him, kind of back behind his shoulder, so it looks like he's, taking a break from killing a bunch of criminals. So I went ahead and put the Punisher War Machine figure next to the endgame Iron Man figure I had previously reviewed in the video. Here you can tell the pure size, height, and bulk difference between the two figures and the suits that they're wearing. They both tend to catch your attention in different ways though. With the Iron Man figure, the shine, brighter colors of the suit, more lights, and the more futuristic look really grabbed your attention. While the Punisher War Machine figure is just a straight up tank of a figure with so many weapons and effects. The size, it's hard not to notice it. From the side, it is even more apparent, the difference, especially when you see the guns attached to the Punisher. One thing that would be a cool comparison to do whenever it comes out would be these two figures compared to the endgame War Machine / Iron Patriot figure, the one in the movie where Rocket rides on his shoulder for a little bit. In the pictures they've released so far, it looks even bulkier than this Punisher War Machine figure. So maybe I'll get that on pre-order and wait and see if I can get my hands on it and do that comparison down the road. So there you have it, guys, the Punisher War Machine figure. This figure definitely exceeded my expectations. The combination of the suit, head sculpt, all the weapons, the weapon effects, it'll really look cool in anyone's collection. Only drawbacks, I guess, would be the arc reactor chest situation, where I'd like to have seen them do something with the lights a little bit differently. But hopefully there'll be some custom solutions for that maybe in the future. Another thing would be I wish they would have done something with a better base for it. With the diecast figures in general and how heavy they are, I feel like they warrant a heavier duty base for the figure. And also like they're at a premium price, so I think still giving the same standard base is kind of a cop out on that stuff. But other than that, I highly recommend this figure if you're a fan of the Punisher or like the Marvel Power Armor suit figures in general. Depending on what pre-order gets fulfilled next, I'll either be doing the Endgame Captain America Hot Toys or the Heavy Mandalorian figure. It really depends on whichever one comes to me first. Otherwise, if one of those don't get shipped to me in the near future, maybe I'll do a review of the Deluxe Beskar Mandalorian Grogu figure I got before I started my channel. If you guys are interested in that, let me know in the comments, and maybe I'll do that one next in between waiting for the other figures. But that will wrap up this unboxing and review for the figure. Thank you everyone so much for watching. I really appreciate those likes and subscribes to the channel, and let me know what you think of this figure in the comments below. Until the next video, take it easy.